All right, guys, we've got Donavin back today. Thanks for coming back, man.
Hey, man, the summer's good, more better.
I love our chats. I want to start with you with police and martial arts and what they get taught, what they don't get taught, what they should get taught.
Okay.
And how to avoid these incidents that we see on TV, these horrible things that go down. What, from your point of view, where do we start?
All right, let me give you a little background first.
Yeah.
Just because I'm sure somebody's going to be watching this and be like, what the hell's that guy know he's talking about? I worked in asset protection and executive protection for about 11 years. Okay. And I started in the grocery stores in Oakland and the East Bay in California. I was playing clothes and I caught shoplifters.
Okay.
Okay. So over that time period, as I worked for different Fortune 500 companies during that period, I probably put cuffs on somewhere between 500 and 700 people over that time period. And many of them did not want to go in the handcuffs.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Many of them fought or tried to run or what have you. I had ended up arresting people who were wanted for murder. I had people trying to stab me, shoot me, all kinds of stuff when I was working in an environment. So in addition to that, as part of my Krav Maga training, I also have gone through defensive tactics certification as a law enforcement DT instructor. So I know what I'm talking about in this regard.
You're second degree Krav Maga instructor.
Third degree black belt.
Third degree black belt in
Krav Maga. I'm also.
With how many years behind you in that? What do you say now?
Krav Maga?
Yeah.
Almost 20 years now.
And just martial arts probably even longer than that.
Yeah,
right?
martial arts longer. Martial arts are going on 30, 35.
So you got a pretty good base.
Yes, I have an understanding of defensive tactics, but because it's a little different from obviously for civilian.
Yeah.
For civilian, law enforcement, and military, and I've trained all three of those groups, right? So it's a little different, right? In civilian, again, it's stun and run; they can get away. Law enforcement doesn't necessarily have that option, though. Like they're there for a reason to stop bad guy and catch bad guy, right?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, we usually talk about control the suspect, right? Incapacitate them, and in the worst case scenario, terminate them. Right?
Okay.
So there is a continuum. There's a self-defense continuum. In addition to that, or use of force continuum. In addition to my background in that, I actually have worked with Metro. I'm not on CERT anymore. I just finished a 3-year tour with CERT, which is a critical incident response team and review team.
Is that traveling the country?
No, that's just for here.
Okay.
For Las Vegas, Metropolitan Police Department.
So you're training the police on
training with them, but not that. CERT isn't about training. That was about literally I'm on scene during a critical incident. So if an officer involved shooting, once the scene is secure, they call us out. We come out, go behind the yellow tape, walk the scene, get all the information, listen to the radio traffic, listen to the officers' interviews afterwards, and then we adjudicate the cases. We had full subpoena power, and it was a volunteer position. It was something I took very, very seriously. And during that 3-year period, I was, somewhere between I want to say 15 to 20 different incidents that I was on.
What value are you bringing by doing that?
So the value that I bring, and I really enjoyed working with Metro regarding that, is because I think it's okay to be supportive of law enforcement, but also critical.
Okay.
Right. But in order to be critical, one has to understand
what they went
what
through.
the process is.
Okay.
Right. Not only and not just the incident itself, but the training leading up to it, the communication between leadership and the officers on scene.
Okay.
All of the things, the support mechanisms, and all those things that help officers make good decisions under stress, under duress.
Are you helping them attack that, do that better the next time? Is that why you're there?
Well, Well, number one, we're there to make sure that they live up to the standards that are held by Metro Police Department. Whether it's so if there's a critical incident, we're there to make sure that it's within department policy. The use of force was within department policy, and then also make sure that the training supports it. And if there's a gap there, it makes suggestions to say, hey, well, maybe we can do this. And it's not just civilians, but we have more civilian voters on that board than police officers.
Really?
It's a very unique board around the country.
Okay.
And so other states are starting to pick this up, but it's been an honor to serve on that board because we get to work directly with command. And from everyone from training down, the police officers themselves, the union, everyone is in the room. Everyone's represented, and we're having this dialogue. And some of those dialogues sometimes are terse, man. They can be a little intense because, sometimes you've got people who have an understanding of what use of force should be, and some who don't.
Okay.
And then you've got a department like Metro that's constantly trying to evolve to become a better police department.
Okay.
And even within that, there's still some struggle there because there's some people who are like, well, we didn't always do it this way. Well, no, this is the new way we're doing it. And when when new leadership comes in, they maybe want to go in one direction or what have you. But it's an intricate process. It's not a perfect process, but I think it's damn good.
Okay.
I think it's damn good. So
what are they being taught? What are they not being taught?
So a lot of police departments.
And is it continuous training or is it just training for 6 months and then good luck?
So the bulk of their training, I'm going to tell you, the bulk of their training that we receive, they're going to receive at the academy level.
Okay, when they first start.
When they first start. But even then, that's not enough, in my opinion. As far
is
as
that hand-to-hand combat?
Hand-to-hand stuff. But,
okay.
And depending on department to department, it changes. Usually, whatever the training department division, whatever they're into, if the person running the training department is into jiu-jitsu, you're going to see a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, really? So
if they're into
not one set criteria.
Right.
Gotcha.
But Metro was unique in their approach. They have a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, and then they had Krav Maga people come in to run also some DTAC stuff. And a couple of my instructors who work at my school also are police officers, and they had that position where they were working at ASOT for the training. Like all departments in any walk of life, law enforcement, corporate America, training is something that's usually the first thing that gets axed on a budget.
Yeah, okay.
Because they don't value it until the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Right?
And then the chasing the tail.
And then they're like, oh, well, so then what happens is, they're like, oh, we need to train. We need to train. Well, then you have what stops people from training? You have officer apathy to a certain extent. Some officers wrongly, in my opinion, believe that the department should pay them for training. I think that's ridiculous. You signed up to be a police officer. You got in shape at the academy or before the academy. You went through all this stuff. This is no different than you paying for your own ammunition to go on range and fire your weapon and practice your skill set. And a lot of them don't even do that. They'll qualify once a year or maybe once every 6 months, depending on which department. So
stay on that, but I want to touch on that.
Okay.
Because in Australia, you shoot once a year. That's it. There's not, guns aren't common, shooting isn't common, practicing isn't common.
I know.
Is it the same in America? Or?
Well, so no. So here's the thing.
Or is it a passion that someone who likes shooting practices?
Listen, I think, well, there's certainly gun enthusiasts in the United States. So
who are police who might shoot on a consistent basis.
Right.
But you don't have to, what you're saying.
You don't have to, you just have to qualify once a year for most departments.
What's qualifying?
Usually...
is that a legit test, or is that just like, he shot straight and that's that? Like,
It's for most departments, it's a basic sort of within 7 to 10 yards of 3 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards, and acquiring targets, hitting targets, trying working your grouping and all that.
So it's not as good as it should be.
I think it could be a lot better.
Okay.
I actually created a program called Trial by Firearms, and we run it every November. And it's civilian, and we have a lot of law enforcement as well. And it's a 3-day intensive course.
Training under pressure.
100%. Shoot houses and a whole bit.
Okay.
And it's the things that agencies, good agencies, Metro's one of them.
Yeah.
They want to do those things.
Okay.
And they're trying to promote that. The thing is,
but it's a budget thing, like you're saying.
It's a budget thing, and also there's the bureaucracy of it. They can't make an officer do it because then they have to pay them to do it. Does that make sense? I can't make you go take jiu-jitsu.
Surely you'd want to, though, right? It's for your own protection.
No, you would think, right? You would think. And then you get a lot of officers, I'll just shoot them. And I'm like, and that's how you guys end up in the bullshit that you're in.
Because, you didn't need to.
Right.
Okay.
So
everything's on camera, everything's filmed.
100%.
Take the phone out.
100%. And by the way, I don't, like, there should be never an expectation of a person in uniform not to be videoed. Are you kidding? You're a government representative. You are absolutely, you don't work for yourself. You work for the people. So absolutely you should be videoed. Absolutely. So and you should want to be videoed, by the way.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you're following the rules, you're doing what you're meant to be doing, you should have any problem not being filmed, right?
In loss prevention, we had a rule. Good customers don't care if there's cameras in the stores.
Yeah. Okay.
It keeps honest people honest.
Yeah.
They don't care. Like,
okay.
They don't even know.
So you say the same thing about
police. It's the same thing with police. Yeah, okay. Same thing with police. So at any rate, with Metro, training is not an event, it's a process, right? And so what I mean by that is, that's one of the reasons why I don't like women's only self-defense seminar. Because what happens, they come, they learn one time, by the time they walk out of the building, they forgot probably 45 or 50% of what was shown or more.
False sense of confidence.
False sense of security, and then they don't come back because they think, well, I took a class once. It's like, well.
Have you seen that video with a It's a TikTok. The girlfriend's like comes back from self-defense class and like
challenges the boyfriend. Sweeps it,
yeah. The boyfriend just dumps her on the head.
Yeah.
He's like
what? Yeah, no, and that's part of it, right? So
that's exactly what
it's exactly it, because
she thought she had
she's
something.
Like, I learned something out of class today. Let me show you. And I always caution my students against it, because it's like, and I get my female students like, well, I tried it on my boyfriend, it didn't work, and I'm like, did you really want to kick him in his balls?
Yeah, that's the.
She's like, no. Did you really want to gouge his eye? No. Did you bite him? No. Okay, well then you didn't do anything. I showed you.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to because you didn't want to hurt him.
Yeah.
Right. So with law enforcement though, the biggest problem in law enforcement today is A, lack of consistent training.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
And B, shit cultures, bad leadership that create shitty cultures. And what I mean by that is, I watch videos all the time of officers who are escalating tension when need not be. What I mean by that is, their ego is up. They're coming in. You sit down and sit on the curb. It's like, you don't talk to people like that. Listen,
okay.
Like, it's like, Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, man. Be nice until it's time not to be nice.
Okay.
Right? Be
Coming
nice.
in aggressive is going to make
it. I can be firm. I can be courteous to you. I don't need to be a dick though and insult you. I don't need to muscle up and posture myself.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna hit you, because
the power
tripping. Because here's the reality, and this is what I always caution. I've had entire classes from local police departments come to my gym and train in hand-to-hand combat as a group, and local police departments here. And I always caution them: listen to me. When you talk to someone and you posture yourself like you're going to hit them, you don't understand where their background is. There are neighborhoods in Las Vegas and every other city in America that if you say certain words, that's a fight. Like telling someone to shut the F up, calling someone a bitch. Hey, let me tell you, certain neighborhoods where I'm from, if someone says, man, shut your bitch ass up, that you better be ready to bring, like in East Oakland, you say that to somebody, in the Bay Area, you say that to somebody, that's a fight. And a lot of times these officers come from what I call them cherries. They come from the suburbs, and then they go into inner city neighborhoods or neighborhoods that have different ethnic enclaves, and they don't know the local culture.
Okay.
And they expect and demand that everyone just, you fear law enforcement. It's like, no. Like,
seems like you're making your job more difficult.
You are. Like what they forget is you're there to solve a problem. Solve a problem. You're not there to kick people's asses. You're not there to, I'm going to throw everybody in jail.
You can, doesn't mean you have to.
Right. By the way, if you take that approach, just like when I train security staffs, I've trained security staffs at casinos and strip clubs and all kinds of things. What I tell them is, you're here to make sure that everyone is kind of following the rules and having a good time. The people who aren't, they stick out like a sore thumb. But you're there to solve a problem, not necessarily bust them up. Now, the people who are going to get busted up, you can see them coming a mile away. It's like, all right, this guy's not going to respond to verbal. He's not going to respond to,
it's a big Tony Robbins thing.
Yeah.
You ever heard him talk about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Pain and pleasure, right?
He talks about like matching people's tones and making it, if someone talks sad or someone's hyper.
100%. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And so people, when I train police officers, I always tell them, just remember, when someone sees you, they're probably not having a good moment.
No, that's, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that doesn't mean that you got to come up and like, baby coddle them. You still can enforce the law. Yeah. You still can be the authority as you are and the trusted authority. But what you can't do, you can never do, you can beat the crap out of people. Once the handcuffs are on, it's over.
So
it's over.
So you're saying like the way you talk and the way you address it is more, even more important than
100%
the martial arts and self-defense.
100%.
That's interesting.
It's because that's actually part of the self-defense continuum. My
really
command
is,
presence, right?
Yeah.
Like I walk in a room. If I
you're not demanding respect. You're earning the respect.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're in full, an officer shows up and they get out of their unit and there's a full-fledged violent crime happening, like someone's being assaulted, they don't have any, now it's not time to be nice.
Yeah, but
I have to save this guy, right? Like, but if, hey, this guy rolled through a stop sign, right?
Yeah.
Or he's sitting somewhere with an open container and you jump out of your unit and you're walking up and your chest is puffed up and you're like, hey, whoa, calm down. Calm down. It's kind of that. People are like, oh, you don't know what it's like. You haven't been out there. I'm like, God, but I've been in very high stress situations. I've had a knockdown drag out fight with a guy who was wanted for murder. He just so happened to come into a retail establishment and try to steal something, and I happen to be there. So that's our cross path.
Yep.
We cross paths, but I don't know what his history is. All I know is he was fighting like you wouldn't believe, and he wasn't trying to run away. He was trying to hurt me. There's a difference, right? So like, okay, after I got him down and got him under control, I'm like, what is this dude's deal? And then I found out he was wanted for murder somewhere.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, oh, okay, well that explains it. It's not personal.
There's a big difference too from the outside in. If you, hey, we were wrestling, the guy just fell asleep, or hey, I got on top of him and threw 10 punches to his, and there's phones, and there's video, there's witnesses. It's good to have extra skills to control the situation from even outside perspective to protect yourself.
It's essential.
It's like, hey, that guy just fell asleep, but people don't realize it. You had a little choke on him, but it wasn't seen from the outside.
Right.
But if you mount someone and start pounding them, you're not getting out of that very easy.
So I was, when people say things like, "Oh, that's too critical," what I always ask them is say, "Well, okay, watch the video, and then if that was your mom, whom the officer was dealing with, would you be okay with that? Would you be okay? Are you comfortable with it being your mom being treated that way?" Regardless of what that person did. See, that's what a lot of officers in departments around the country, and it's usually the same departments, they fail to understand. You are not there to dole out punishment. You're there as a liaison between the city and the code to get them in front of a judge so that can be adjudicated. Now, if in that process they try to resist, you can use whatever legal force is necessary or necessary legal force to effect that arrest. Okay? I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I think the problem that people have is when you're seeing these videos and you're like, man, that could have been totally avoided.
Yeah,
right?
That with more training or more skill or...
There's a very specific case. It wasn't in Vegas. It was in California, actually out of my hometown in San Leandro, where I went to high school. I actually saw the video well before it became public. I have a friend of mine that sent it to me and said, "What do you think of this?" And I called him on the phone because I didn't want to put it in writing. I said, "Your officer's in trouble."
Gotcha.
And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "This is not okay."
Okay.
I said, if I were called as an expert witness, which I've been called as expert witness before in different cases, I would be able to pick this guy apart and destroy why he shouldn't have shot this guy. Completely avoidable, 100%. He ended up getting convicted. The officer ended up getting convicted. And he called me back. He's like, "Dude, you were right." He was like, when we sat down and broke down the video, he's like, "All the points that you told me, I made them." And it was just, it's one of those things where it was inside of a Walmart and the guy had a bat and he had a bat in his hand and the officer had cover. In other words, there was another officer there with him. He got close to him, actually had his hand on his shoulder. And the guy you really couldn't tell, was he winding up or was he pulling away, but completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
The officer perceived a threat. And so where I was critical is that he pushed him away, drew his firearm and shot the guy. Where all he had to do was go inside and just take the guy down and had 2-on-1 and it would have been fine. And some people are like, "Well, officer safety is important." Let me tell you something. When I joined the Army, I accepted that one day I might get shot at by someone who hates Americans and hates the fact that we're there or whatever. Even though I wasn't an infantryman, my first job is a soldier first. Yeah. So you can't sign up for a job like that and then start going, "Well, my safety. It's innately dangerous." By the way, there are lots of jobs that are far more dangerous than being a law enforcement officer. Yeah. Like working in a coal mine somewhere. But
you're getting paid for that.
100%. And you have and this
they're not forcing you to do that. That's your choice.
But if you sign up for that job,
that's why I'm not a police officer.
You made the choice not to.
Yeah.
But if you're going to sign up for that job, you have, in my opinion, a responsibility to not only to yourself and your family, but also to the department that you work for to seek additional training in hand-to-hand combat. If you don't, you're wrong. If you carry a gun every day and you don't have hand-to-hand combat skills and weapon retention skills, but more importantly than that, verbal skills, conflict resolution skills, people skills, you're screwed.
And this can all be taught with consistent training. Let me tell you this. In Australia, we have our professional football players have got jiu-jitsu coaches.
Okay.
So obviously they learn to take someone down better and hold them down.
Sure.
How cool is that?
Great.
But our police don't. How nuts is that? Our football players,
take it more seriously than right?
not even take it. They get paid.
They value it.
They get paid to take people down.
But here's the thing,
in sports.
But here's the thing, though. You just said what it is. Like, and again, in the United States, I could tell you right now, the big thing is, well, they're not paying me for that.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Isn't that nuts though, right?
I think it's nuts. So like, I know in military units around the world, you're expected to train. You're expected to do, like, have the skill set, right? Like, and if you're not, you're out. Like it's not, oh, well, this is unfair, I'm going to sue you. No, you signed up for the job. And we told you from, so there's an easy fix to me. Here's an easy fix. You want to get promoted, right? You're a police officer and you're year 5, you're in. You said, hey, I want to get promoted. And they're like, okay, cool. Hey, what's your secondary training? Are you training in any self-defense training? Are you training any defensive tactics, any martial arts? Are you? No. Then you're not getting promoted.
Okay.
Period.
And another bonus of that is keeps you in shape because you're healthy, you're able to run, move, touch your toes, fall on the ground, get back up.
Whenever I train cops, I always give them a scenario. And I said, do you want to value training? Okay. You're on duty. Call comes over radio. It's a home invasion. And you realize it's your house. It's your wife. It's your child. You're across town. You can't get there. One by one, officer picks up. They're responding to the call. They're en route. A code 3 to your house. The first officer that picks up is squared away. You know he trains. He's in shape. He's sharp. He's on the button. He's the guy that you want with you when you go into that room, into that fight, because you know he's a warrior, right? That's Officer A. Officer B is a fucking schlub. He looks to get out of everything possible. He doesn't want to train. He doesn't want to do anything. Yeah. He's half-assing everything he does, right? And the officer, I'm like, which one do you want showing up to your house? And they're like, naturally, I want Officer A. Good. Which one are you?
Yeah, I like that. And then which one? You literally want your whole team to be like that, right? Like the A team. The
truth of the matter is, though, it's never that way, right? Like even in the Army, if you have, let's say you have 50 people, 50 soldiers going to combat. Out of those 50, you got like maybe one hard ass warrior. But you've got like 10 that will follow that dude and go with him. You've got 10 that will follow those people, but not be the tip of the spear, but they'll come along and do it. And then you've got the rest in the back that are like, oh, I don't know, even though they've been trained. It's just human nature. That's why you find more expended rounds on battlefield than you do bodies. They're not that bad a shot. Most of them just don't want to put someone else down.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to find those people and cultivate that. But here's what you do. You have to build a culture of the environment. Teams take the personality of their leader. If your leader is a selfish, arrogant prick, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah. Backbiting
and all on team. But if your leader's squared away, leading you from the front, he's taking care of his people. That permeates the organization. Any organization.
Lead by example.
Lead by example. So you wonder, I watch some of these videos with police officers and I'm like, even with all of this stuff going on, we've been in like cancel and defund the police and all, which I totally don't agree with. It's ridiculous. But even with all this stuff going on, you still see these officers doing just blatantly stupid shit.
Yeah, it hasn't stopped.
Because that's the culture that the environment has allowed. They are doing it by habit. And they've got people in command that will cover up for their bullshit.
Gotcha.
And so my first sergeant, shout out to First Sergeant Houseworth, right? My first sergeant used to tell me all the time, he said, hey, Britt, don't do anything that I can't defend. And it's really the best advice.
Yeah.
I tell my kid that. My son and my daughter are at the age now, they're the high school age where they want to go out with their buddies and go to the football game or go something else. And I'm like, go to a movie, and I'm totally okay with it because you have to let them fly. But don't do anything I can't defend. And they understand what that means. And so it's not that difficult, to build that spirit, but you need better leadership. That's part of the problem in the country right now. Forget the politics aside. The politics of either group.
Yeah.
Forget that. They suck at leadership. They suck at ownership. They've all basically capitulated their leadership position to the people that are paying them. And now you can't lead like that.
Yeah.
I can't lead if my decisions are totally being, totally dependent. I'm a puppet now of someone else who doesn't even understand what it is.
Being the word, right?
I can't lead. So that's the problem now. And a lot of police departments have poor leadership. They're bureaucrats. They're guys trying to get reelected. They're guys trying to get promoted, and they're not taking care of the people. And there's been such a disconnect from the departments with the people, and now people are fed up. People are like, oh, people don't respect police officers anymore. That's not what they're really saying. They're not afraid of you anymore. You have confused respect with fear.
Mm.
Respect lasts longer than fear. People eventually become, they're not afraid of you anymore because it becomes like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, and I've only had really one negative interaction with a police officer here in town, and it was awful. But I literally was like, hey, listen, I don't know what your deal is. I don't know what your problem is, but brother, you cannot talk to me like that. Like as a grown man, I can't let you speak to me like that. And if you continue to do so, you're gonna have a problem. And your badge and your uniform that doesn't matter. That's your job. Like, that's your job.
Yeah.
But I'm me 24/7, right? So understand that. And we came to an understanding. We came to an understanding. But I also respect the job that they have to do. They have such a tough job.
Oh,
they're not seeing anybody when anybody wants to see them.
No
one. Everybody. And then you've got the cultural things. Like in my culture, African American culture, our history with law enforcement has sucked.
Yeah, it's been awful.
It's been, by the way, people are like, oh, well, then stop committing crimes. I'm like, if you think that way, I can tell you're probably a person who hasn't read a book since you left high school, right? And you don't have a passport. You've not traveled.
Yeah.
Because you're ignorant,
very
right?
Sheltered,
like very sheltered and ignorant, right? Very ignorant. So it's not about the criminal aspects of it. If you think about just the history, like where I'm from in the Bay Area, oh my God, Oakland and Berkeley and all the civil unrest that was going on in the 50s and 60s, it's happening now. Nothing changed. What happened? Time just went by. And so people don't change, right? So you have to change them. You have to have a paradigm shift in the department. It has to take strong leaders who stand up and say, hey, officers, we're going to support you. We're going to train you. We're going to support you, but we're going to demand that you come to work every day and try to get better.
So I know you talk about everyone should train.
Yes.
But if you don't train, you're a female. I'm sure you got a good way of putting this. What is the things that you go for as far as self-defense? Eyes, nose, things like that. Have you got a set thing?
I mean, like soft targets on the where am I going to hit them? Yeah.
What would you suggest to females? What do they do? And how do you stress the intensity and the realness of what needs to happen? You know, you touched on before, hey, it was my boyfriend. I didn't want to scratch his eyes out. How do you get that across? It needs to be as real as real. Right.
So you never want to sacrifice safety for reality. You know, like there's a lot of Krav Maga instructors out there that sell bullshit. Oh, Krav Maga is too dangerous. We can't do that because it's not sanctioned. It's like secret ninja Israeli.
Yeah.
And they're full of shit. Like honestly, they're full of shit. Like, and I call them out on it too. Krav Maga instructors. I don't like it. Like so. The reality of it is that the human body is what it is. There's more sensitive areas in the body. So you got ears, eyes, nose, throat, groin. Can't see, can't. So my rule is if you can't see, you can't breathe, you can't fight. Right?
Can't see.
You can't see and you can't breathe, you can't fight.
Okay.
So if I go to your ears, cup your ears, smash your ears, mess up your equilibrium, thumb in the eye, go to the throat, go to the groin. Like I'm going to do things that hurt that person so we can buy time to escape. She's not trying to win the fight. You got to remember, there's a difference between fighting and self-defense. They are not the same thing.
Okay.
There are two separate roads that intersect at various points.
So understanding that you are in trouble and you got to do something extreme to not be in trouble.
Yes, anymore. And I've got to do what I need to do.
Do you feel like people understand that?
No.
I feel like they don't, right?
No, at all.
Have you seen that video? The guy gets in a fight. A guy picks a fight with this guy, gets other guy gets on his back and starts choking him out. And he starts tapping. He's like, bro, this is a fight. I'm not letting go of you.
There's no way I would let go of that choke.
Yeah, he's like, this is a fight. We're not.
I would let go of it
wrestling.
if he's limp.
Yeah, once he passes out,
then I'll make sure he can still breathe, and I go.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah. This guy just thought, oh yeah, I start the fight, I'll tap out when I want.
None of that.
This is a fight.
No, there's none of that. No, like
this is like life or death situation.
Anytime anyone approaches you in the street, anytime anyone approaches you aggressively and violently, you have to think that they're there to kill you.
That's kind of what I'm
getting at. That's the only interpretation of this. And people are like, well, that's extreme. Really?
That's life.
Do you think he's going to announce to you what he intends to do to you? Like this guy's trying to attack you, trying to hurt you. You know,
rape you, kill you, you disappear. Like
particularly with women, and I've been, you know, there's all these things going on in Memphis, and you know, the unfortunate the teacher who was murdered by a complete and utter psychopath, right? It's unfortunate because people say, one of my dear friends, she put on Facebook, women should be able to jog whenever they want to, regardless of whatever it is. I'm like, and I told her, don't you confuse what should be with what is. Make no mistake about it. Women are being hunted.
Yeah.
So you're on the menu. Then what are you going to do about it? Because I get women all the time. They're like, why don't you train? Because I hear empowerment. I hear all this other, we go, oh, we're empowered. Are you really? Are you? Why don't you train? Well, I don't like it. I don't have time. I don't this. And it's all these bullshit excuses.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If you're not training, you're your attacker's accomplice. You're the fucking getaway driver. You're the getaway driver. You're cooperating with them.
Yeah.
So they want you not to train. They want you to be like, I don't like it. I'm scared. I'm shy and all this other bullshit. And it's like, well, you're the one being hunted. Not me. Nobody's, people that run around kidnapping my ass, I don't fit in small packages, right? Like, I'm too ugly to be kidnapped, you know what I mean? And nobody's going to pay a ransom for me. I'm not a good target, right? Yeah. And I'll probably fight back.
It's a valid
point. You know what I mean?
Like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the reality of it is that you have, like, I tell them, in this country, at this point, I wholeheartedly believe that self-defense should be taught from middle school all the way out of high school, just like a second language, just like math, just like English and all those things.
That's a good point.
Mandatory.
It's at an early age, right?
Yes, at an early age.
If everyone could take care of himself, it'd be a lot less violence.
Yeah, when I say self-defense, I mean self-defense. I don't mean Taekwondo. I don't mean McDojo bullshit. Like
straight, real.
Like, I don't, like nothing with 9-year-old black belts.
Yeah.
The 9-year-old black belts are ridiculous. Yeah. Like, it's just, like, it's insulting, right? I'm talking about a combat art, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, boxing, combat, like something that's going to empower people and give them a skill set that they need. And I truly believe that we have to take that seriously. And women have to start to take their safety seriously. Superman's not coming to save you. Superman's dead. Like, he's not coming. No one's coming to help you. When I train women, I always tell them, no one is coming to help you. Forget that. You can scream all you want. It's just you and them. And so now I always ask people, especially women with children, I said, oh, you don't want to train? No, I don't want to train. I don't like it. Really? Let me ask you a question. So we have a shoot house at the school, and I said, imagine your daughter is on the other side of that wall, and you hear boom, boom, and she's screaming, "Mommy, help me. Help me." And she's in there with a monster. What would you do? You will kick in that door and like a fucking banshee and kill whatever's on the other side of that door. If you don't answer that, then you're not fit for motherhood. You don't, or fatherhood for that matter, right? So, they all they get emotional. I've had women cry just me saying that to them. Yeah. And I'm like, then why don't you take your training seriously? Because if you don't train, your daughter's not going to train. And you're gonna.
That's another good point, isn't it?
It's insane. You know how many calls I get at the end of I set my watch to it. June, kids get out of school. July, after the 4th of July, of course, because we got a party. Mid-July to early August, I start getting phone calls from some mom or dad who's like, hey, my daughter's getting ready to go to college. Can you teach her something in 3 days? And I'm like, where the fuck you been this whole time?
Yeah, okay.
Like, now it's serious to you now that she's leaving the nest. But when she was in the nest, it's not serious to you.
Okay.
You see where I'm coming from? It's not a priority to them. And my thing is, my daughter's been trained since she could crawl. My kids they know the rule. You want to go to basketball games and football games and proms and shit and all that stuff? Hey, it's going to be directly related to the amount of time you spend training. And if you haven't been training, you ain't going.
Someone who has a health scare and all of a sudden they were going to lose weight.
Sure.
It's the same type of thing, right?
Sure. And you're yes, but here's the thing: it shouldn't take that.
No. It shouldn't.
How many times are you going to have to hear about some woman being raped and kidnapped before you decide, hey, you know what? I probably need to take care of this.
It's probably one of those things too, if you don't realize the stats and how often it happens,
sure,
and how many times in the city and how much crime there is.
They like to bury their heads.
And it's the same thing with health.
100%.
Most people don't realize that 40% of Americans are obese now.
So
there's someone dies from a heart attack every 39 seconds.
So
imagine the rape status here, or
well, that's what's reported, what we know.
Yeah, and so imagine maybe it's 39
women
seconds.
Women who get raped who don't report it because they feel shamed or they feel, you know what I mean? And that's a real thing.
I don't know that. Do you know that? Yeah. I feel like if you would, I feel like a lot more people would probably train.
Well, you would think so. When I first started, man, I thought I first started to open the school. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna save the world. Who doesn't want to train? Who would not want to go to defense? And then I found out that my desire, passion, and skill set is insurmountable. Is not adequate, I should say, when it comes to fighting the most powerful force in the world, which is the gravitational pull of the past. Habits. People don't train because they built the habit of not training. People don't work out because they build a training habit of not working out. But people look at me like, oh my God, you're a big guy, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, dude, I can outlift, outrun, outfight, outfuck you and 10 of your friends today on my worst day. I had a girl came in, she's fit, big, strong, powerlift girl, right? I'm a weightlifter. I walked in the she came to the gym to support her. Well, not support her, she gave her friend a ride. So I said, hey, why don't you train? I lift weights. Okay. You're strong? You look strong. Yeah, I'm strong. I lift weights. I don't need self-defense. I said, are you stronger than me? And she stopped. I said, sweetheart, you can lift weights the rest of your life. I can roll out of my bed with fucking pneumonia and outlift you.
But it still doesn't protect you.
Right. And my point is that now that we've established that strength is not in your favor, I have a skill set. You don't have one. Now what? That's my point. Oh, I have a gun. Have you trained? Really? Like when people tell me I got pepper spray. We have an inert pepper spray at the gym. Right?
I thought of that a lot since last time you said
so last time, right?
Training with pepper spray. Training with pressure. Left hand, right hand.
Yes.
Getting it out of your bag. Where is it in your bag?
Yes.
Does it work?
Does it work?
Yeah.
Does it work? Because it doesn't work on about 18% of the population. Pepper spray has no impact. No effect.
Oh, does it even spray?
Like, does it spray? When was the last time you used it? Did you spray yourself? What is it going to happen if you get sprayed with it?
It's so simple, but it's so powerful.
But people don't get it. They're like, oh, well, I'm like, yeah, you carrying it. Like, well, I'm prepared because I have it. I'm like, no, like if I go stand in my garage, it doesn't make me a car. Right? I'm just in the garage. Like, it's still me.
Oh my God.
So you got to prepare. You got to train. Imagine that with anything else, right? Imagine a chef. Imagine a chef going, hey, did you train? Did you actually train to this? Nah, I watched a couple YouTube videos. That meal's probably not going to be that good then. I promise you.
Yeah,
you got to have a skill set. So you don't have a skill set, you don't do. But again, it's do you value it? It has nothing to do with, well, it's too expensive. Bullshit. But people spend money on all kinds of crazy stuff. You you don't believe me? Look at your phone. You can shop. And I don't even remember the last time I I don't even go to the bar, go to the mall anymore. I just order my underwear. Boom, boom, done, right? So it's because people value it or they don't value it. They either value the training or they won't value it. And if they don't value it, then they're like, well, I live in Summerlin, so nothing bad happens. Or I live in this gated community. And I always ask, well, did you lock yourself in with some monsters or did you lock the monsters out? You have to ask yourself that question. Well, I hope nothing happened. Hope isn't a plan, man. Hope isn't a plan. I hope nothing happens either, but if something does happen,
you're prepped.
100% ready.
Yeah.
And I'm literally willing to fight to the bitter end for it. If I go that way, then I go. I came into this world butt-ass naked, covered in somebody else's blood and screaming, and I have no problem going out the same way. So literally, I'm just like, okay, if you make that choice on that getting up morning, and you make that choice that if you cross paths with someone, you're going to do something, like, you better hope it's not somebody that's trained and has a warrior mindset, and someone who's like, because my wife, for instance, I know my family. In my house, if there's a home invasion, the kid's job is to get mom and get out. And I was like, why? Well, the quicker they get out, they can get to a neighbor or get to a phone, the faster Metro can get there.
Yep.
Also, it enables me to fight completely free. I don't have to worry about anything. Backstop. I don't have to worry about if I get a gun where I'm firing, if they're safe or not. I can go completely ham.
Even the fact you've had that conversation
all the time
is huge.
All the time.
I bet you no one else has had that conversation.
Listen, this is a true story. I think I referenced it the last time we talked. We were in San Francisco. We took 2 trips to San Francisco within about a month of each other. The first time we went, we very rarely will use a car when we get to the city. It's going home. So we get on the bus, we get on the train, when we get there. So we get on the bus and we're riding through, and there's a guy on the bus, and my daughter recognized his facial features. Both my daughter and my son, I think they were 8 then, 7 or 8 years old. So the second time we go, same guys on the bus, except this time the bus is crowded. He's in the back of the bus. He's like, hey, I'm trying to get off the bus. He's kind of like that. And there was an elderly gentleman he looked at Judy's handbag, and he looked at me, and he looked at the guy, and he mouthed, be careful, to me. And I turned and I looked, and I kind of did this pointing out, and he just shook his head and he put his head down. He's telling me that he's a local.
Gotcha.
And my daughter recognized him, and I recognize his face too. Anyway, the guy walks past me and he kind of eyeballs a couple people's bag, and I'm like, oh shit. But I thought that he was going to just get off the bus but I didn't see there was one more lady by the front. He grabs her bag. She's fighting with him. All these men are standing around in their newspapers looking at their phones. They won't help her.
Yeah.
And I have to fight, kind of swim through about 10 or 12 people to get to him. I ended up getting him. I took care of him and got her bag back and snatched him up. Whatever. So we get home and tell the other family members about it. Like, why did you get involved? Why would you do that? And I'm like,
the fact someone's asking you why you would do that.
But that's society now. And I thought to myself, I'm not a religious person. I'm not. But if you were ever going to be judged at the end of your life, and a movie plays in your life.
Yeah.
And whatever higher power that you believe in is looking at you saying, you know, paths cross for a reason. You are the only Krav Maga instructor, martial art person on that bus with the skill and the willingness to do anything. And if you wouldn't have done anything, you have failed in your ultimate mission.
Yeah.
What kind of father would I have been? An example I set for my child, my son, my daughter, watching me turn my back while this lady's screaming for her life, and they know what I do for a living. It's unacceptable to me. And after I got the handbag and the purse back from the lady, all the men that were standing around him, I'm like, you guys are fucking cowards. I literally told them that.
Yeah, as a male,
I was so angry that these men are sitting there not helping this person. But it's just society, they built it. And partly it's because I'm not.
You do hear horror stories, right? How he pulls out a gun, the person tries to intervene.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
But I mean, like you said, would you rather?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. Like I can't be worried about that. I can't. Now, I'm not going to put on a cape and try to fly around the city and foil crime.
Yeah.
That's not the point. But if you do it in front of me, if you assault someone in front of me, because I always think about, well, what if that was my daughter?
And that's the thing too, right?
What if my daughter's there?
I love how you always go back to that. Like, put yourself in someone else's shoes.
100%.
I think that's very important.
You have to think about other people. You have to empathize.
I noticed here, like, someone's car breaks down on the side of the road and everyone's like, that's someone else's problem. No one really seems to want to help.
They assume that AAA is because you've heard the horror stories,
right?
Assumption is
someone else has got
assumption is the mother of all fuck ups, right? Like, but a lot of people think someone else will deal with it. They don't want to get involved. They've heard the horror stories of trying to help someone get hurt.
They're trying to get home to Mitch earlier.
Yeah, man. And I
even damn ambulances. The amount of cars that don't pull off the damn road.
It's amazing to me.
It blows my mind.
Like, it's insane.
I'm like, when that ambulance is coming for you or your daughter, and all of a sudden you're upset because the car didn't stop.
We might be the most arrogant society.
It's so selfish.
We might be the most arrogant society in the world. Honestly,
it blows my mind.
I'll give you a perfect example. You know, like sporting event in Japan at baseball. They love baseball too, right? When the game is over, the fans clean up after themselves rather
than like, hey, that's someone else's job.
100%.
They're getting paid for that.
What they're thinking is, well, if we clean up our stuff, it makes their job easier.
Oh my God.
They think about the mini instead of the one.
When have you ever heard that?
Never. Right? You're not going to, because in America, this is part of the problem. Like, people are like, I don't care. It's not my problem.
I'm here and they're not here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that permeates a lot of different aspects of our society.
It also creates separations, doesn't it?
It continues it.
Yeah.
And then here's the other part. We like to lie to each other, lie to ourselves, and say, "Oh no, this is the melting pot, and everybody's good." We're the most segregated society. We're more segregated now than we've ever been. Right? Like,
in so many different ways.
Oh my God! Like, and people don't get it. They have short memories. Look, in the 60s, when schools were being integrated and young black girls and boys were being escorted in by the National Guard to go to school, these large angry crowds of people who were spitting on them and yelling at them and cursing them, do you know that those people are still alive?
I think about that all the time.
They're alive.
I didn't grow up with this stuff.
Yeah. You didn't have it there.
I didn't have it here. Yeah. So when it came to America, it's been so eye-opening. Who said the Elvis movie?
Yeah.
Did you know he nearly got put in jail because he moved like I don't want to say it, but like a Negro was the wording that they use. So a white boy grew up in an African-American environment, and he moves like someone who's black, and he nearly went to jail, and then he got sent to the military instead.
Listen.
That blows my mind.
Elvis was absolutely 100% a racist. 100%. Right? And people say, well, that's the environment he grew up in. His parents were racist. I'm like, well, his parents are stupid. Like, so, but however, like our marijuana laws, right? You know they're steeped in this. One of the pillars of the anti-marijuana laws was that if white women smoke marijuana, they want to fuck a black guy. That literally is one of the pillars. Yes, that is literally one of the pillars of the anti-marijuana law.
Really?
It is amazing to me. I laugh at people because people get emotional, highly emotional about stuff. Because my white friends are like, oh my God, here we go talking about racism again. They don't want to hear it, right? But here's the problem. I'm like, you're tired about hearing about racism? I'm like, yeah, good. We're fucking tired of living with it.
Yeah. Amen, right?
Right? Because here's the thing. Like, look, my family is extremely multicultural. You name it, we got it in our family. And my life, my gym, extremely multicultural.
Yeah.
I would not know what to do without my white friends. I would not know what to do without my Mexican friends and my Latino friends from all the Latin speaking countries and Africans and everybody else. I love them all and need them in my life, desire them, and I will die to protect them. It's amazing to me though when you could talk honestly with them. I have friends, very wealthy friends, older white guys who tell me in private, like, hey man, I want to support, I want to help, but I can't speak out against these things, right? And
because they're afraid.
They're afraid they're going to lose their status. They're afraid. Yes, they'll get ostracized. They'll get ostracized from the other people who don't feel that way. And my thing is this: they're like there's this guy on TikTok. His name is Jason Whitlock, and he's a sports a reporter.
Yeah,
he's a journalist, very talented, extremely intelligent, but he's in my opinion. He's an enemy of black people. He sucks up to white people. He tells them what they want to hear because it lines his pockets. And I find that reprehensible.
Yeah.
Not because he disagrees with quote unquote the liberals, right? And because I have enough venom for them too. But the denial of what clearly has happened and continues to happen is infuriating to me. When people are like, well, slavery was 170 years ago, right? It ended 170 years ago. Okay, cool. I always tell people, all right, fine, we won't talk about slavery anymore, but can we keep the 100 years of Jim Crow? Because let me tell you something, Jim Crow ends in 1968. I'm born in 1974. I'm the first person in my family born post-segregation.
It's not that long ago.
Yeah, it really so when people say shit like, oh, that happened to your ancestors, I'm like, you mean my mom? You mean my mother, my grandmother? My mother was born in Houston, Texas. My grandmother was born and raised there during segregation.
Yeah.
Right? My grandparents moved to Alaska, and because that was where they could get away and try and build a life there, and they did. But don't tell me that it was that long ago.
Yeah, everyone talks about it so long ago.
It pisses me off when people say that because it's insane. Those people still, like I mentioned earlier, the young ladies who desegregated at school. She's 66. She's my mother's age. She's still alive today. And she got to get marched into school by the National Guard.
That's insane, right?
Insane. So
people are sheep, right?
100%.
They just follow what's going on. Oh God,
yeah, no.
But talk to me about this. I mention this a lot. If you're born 200 years ago, and it even goes into like World War II, right?
Right.
With like the Jews and things.
Yes.
What type of person have you got to be to stand up and fight for what's right and suffer the repercussions or death or penalty or shootings? Or you got to be not be that sheep. Try to be that wolf.
You got to be
it can't be easy.
No, and you have to be the person that every American claims and thinks that they are.
Everyone says, "Yeah, I wouldn't have done that," or I'm different. Put me back 100 years. Put you back 200 years.
Brother, let me explain something to you, man. Like I tell people this all the time. People are like, look, because I get it on both sides, right?
Yeah, which is awesome that you can think both ways. Right?
I get it on both sides. On the one hand, some of my non-black friends, my white friends are looking, well, you made it. You have a business. You have what's your problem? America's great. God bless America.
The black business owners in America, I think it's like 10%.
Do you know how many black-owned Krav Maga schools there are in the world?
Probably one.
4.
Is it really?
Do you know who the first one was?
You. That's crazy.
I know all the other 3. I know them.
Even my business, I work with so many black business owners, and I didn't realize it's only 10%. That's insane.
We're only 13% of the population.
Yeah, and that's there's actually more Mexicans in this country than there is.
No, we're still the number one place, but the second that they supplant us, that Latinos supplant us, they'll never listen to black people again in this country. That's why I always tell black people that if you really want equality, you have to achieve it through economic achievement. The one color that America does understand is green.
But that's messed up too, isn't it?
No, it's the reality.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too.
It's so I'll give it, like, one day we're in Chinatown in San Francisco. My niece looks at me, she says, Uncle Don, and she's like, how come, we can go to Chinatown and you can buy goods and you can, commerce and you can make connections and you can, where can I do that if I want to do that with African Americans? Where is Blacktown?
Yeah,
right? Where, so, and I told her, I said, well, that's a great question.
That is a good question.
But here's the answer. Every single time that Black folks tried to do that post-slavery, I mean, during, within 10 years or 15 years of leaving slavery, we had Black towns and townships and built and doctors and all kinds of stuff. We were, you know what happened to them, right? They got burned down by angry white folks. And they call them the Red Summer of I want to say, I think it's 1919. I think, I could be wrong. I have to look it up. But it's when Black soldiers came back from World War and whole towns were being burned to the ground. There's Black Wall Street burned to the ground. Massacres.
Yeah. So what was that called? The Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street. It was in Oklahoma.
What was the name of that?
Black Wall Street.
Oh, that's what.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah,
I knew about it.
No, well, most Americans don't even know about it.
I think it was someone famous talking about that.
Yeah,
it was Tom Hanks.
Yes, Tom Hanks just learned about it. But
he just learned about it.
Yeah,
like, how do people not know about this?
Because if you listen, these people who write the books and are in control of the educational system in America, they're not going to write anything that makes themselves look like the savage. So they're like,
you hear about that in Germany too. They don't talk about the war in Germany.
Okay, but that's a perfect example. So if you go to Germany and you mention Hitler in a positive light, or you try to do the Hail Hitler thing, and you're gonna get your ass kicked, A, and B, you're gonna get arrested. They're not proud of their heritage in that regard.
Okay.
So think about being, African American and living in the South. By the way, most Black people have direct lineage to the South. Most Black people in the United States do. But now you're walking around your town and in your school. Your school is called the Cotton Pickers. That's the mascot at your school. You've got a Confederate flag that hangs above the state capitol. You've got homage and statues and plaques to slave owners and Confederates. And you're expected, knowing what these people did to your people, you're expected to put that all aside for the greatness of the country. That's an absurd notion. No Jewish person would ever be expected to hold Hitler or anything about that regime in high regard. They would never, ever tolerate it. They would not. By the way, my Jewish friends, family, and relatives, they're not going to tolerate it, nor should they. So when people tell me these things, I'm like, well, just get over it. I'm like, why don't you say that about the Holocaust? Just get over what? The lynching? Central Park used to be a Black enclave. They took it. They just took it. There's literally slaves buried in Central Park now.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Took it. They just took it. They wanted it. Took it. There's a family that just sued in Southern California to get the beach back. There was a Black beach because Blacks couldn't go to the beach in California, liberal California. We couldn't go to the beach. So a Black man bought beachfront property for Black people to be able to go to the beach. They used, what do you call that? Eminent domain, and took the land from them decades ago. The family just sued and got it back. Now the city is on a lifetime lease basically with the family and have to pay them to lease their land. Gotcha. So when people talk about these things, we've seen Native Americans get reparations and get, we've seen when Japanese, when World War II and internment, we've seen Jewish people get reparations and Black, everything from the 40 acres and they've never made that right. And and it's not that I don't want a check. Here's what I want. Here's what I tell people all the time. This isn't about a check. This is the government. Redlining is probably the most devastating thing that ever happened to African Americans. It literally was government-sponsored economic terrorism that only got outlawed in 1968 or 78.
Yeah.
So, but that's like shutting the door after the horse is already out of the barn.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and its impact is deep because your education in the United States is primarily based on where you live. The quality of your education is based on the zip code that you reside. That's where they get their money, the funding from, all the property taxes and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you had banks lending this to the government saying, do not give black people loans to live in these neighborhoods. If you do, they're not federally funded. This is the federal government that did that. So the banks just followed, said, okay, we're not going to. Guess what? Wells Fargo just paid out another like $500 million recently for discrimination. B of A did the same thing. Like these institutions, because it lines their pockets, they play the game. And so
they play the game.
They play the game. So this is why I tell black folks, back to my
game when it fits
it
right?
fits them.
Yeah.
That's the difference with racism. Racism is a team sport. This is why I always tell people, black people cannot be racist. We don't have any power. What does black racism look like? Name calling? If I go stand out on the corner and scream, I hate all white people, I got a sign, like a sandwich board. White people, I hate that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They're going to be like, there's a crazy black dude out there with a sign. But it's not going to impact where they live, how they're treated in court, the loans that they can get, the jobs that they can get. It has no impact on them. None. That's the quality of service that they're going to get at a hospital. None of those things matter. None of those things matter. It's just a crazy black dude calling names. We don't control anything. Look at Las Vegas. I think we're at 8% of Las Vegas, but we're spread out all over the place. West Side, historic West Side, black Las Vegas. It's in a shamble. Why? Because there's no financial stability there and no financial gain to invest there because it was redlined before. You know Sammy Davis Jr. when he was performing here.
Yeah.
He couldn't stay on the strip. He didn't stay in the hotels. There's an old story of Frank Sinatra. He took some guys over there and beat the crap out of a hotel manager because he wouldn't let Sammy stay. So all the black entertainers were staying at the Moulin Rouge.
Really?
Oh yeah. Vegas was called the Mississippi of the West. I've been in situations in the United States where I've lived all over the place. I've been one of many black people and I've been the only one, right? And then you have to live in two societies. So then I have to come and deal with black people who are like, well, you think you're better than us because, bro, I'm like, bro, like, no, Chris Rock said it best. He said, when he moved into his neighborhood, he's like, it's me and there was one other famous black dude that was in there. I can't remember who it was. And he's like, what's the guy across the street do? He's like, he's a dentist. Well, that guy does. He owns an insurance company. This guy does. He's like, man, I had to be fucking Chris Rock to get into this neighborhood. Right? Because that Meghan Markle, the girl who married the prince, I don't know which one of the princes she married, but she was talking recently about how, I wasn't treated as a white woman. I'm not treated as a black woman until I started doing this. I'm like, oh, you got your nigga wake up call. We call it the nigga wake up call. Jesus. That's what we call it. Yeah. You know what the nigga wake up call is? It's like, oh, you thought you weren't going to be treated like that until they reminded you that you're black. They're going to treat your black ass just like that. The second that you're no longer useful to them, you're gonna get your nigga wake up call. And we know that this is a thing, right? Yeah. We understand that this is a thing. But here, to bring it full circle, this is what I tell black folks. Develop yourselves. Develop ourselves in such a way. We come from, what we've been excellent at is surviving. No group of people could survive the shit that we've been through in this country. We went from property to prosperity. Yeah. Right? From property to president. So you come from a very strong lineage. It doesn't mean that you disrespect other people's culture. It doesn't mean that you're better, but understand up and know who the fuck you are. Right? Our ancestors, when we were stuck in the hurricane, and we were driving through Mississippi, and I saw the way the waters had risen to the levels of the highway in the swamp, and I immediately we were driving across, and I said, "Damn, my cousin, what's going on?" I said, "Our ancestors who tried to escape slavery, they didn't have gear, they didn't have shoes. All they had was a desire and a will to get the fuck away from their captors." And if you lose it out there in that swamp, right now, you're in a bad way. Can you, today, with the gear and the shit, all the stuff that I have, if you lose it out there in that swamp and you don't know what you're doing, you're in a bad way. Can you imagine running from dogs and running from people chasing you? And where the fuck are you running to? It's not like you blend in with society. They're going to know, oh yeah, it's all those black people running by. That to me is more motivating than anything because I tell people, white people don't owe me anything. I don't owe them shit either, other than being authentically me. And if you like it, you like it. Yeah. If you don't, I give zero fucks. That's your problem.
Full stop.
But you're not going to stop me. Yeah. You're not going to stop me. And if you try, I'm just going to run over you. I'm going to run right over top of you. That's how this goes. because we can't lose. I have children I have to leave a legacy for. I have a goal that's bigger than me, something that's bigger than myself. This is not about me. So I don't get flustered or get worried about somebody jumps out and calls me a nigger. And then I'm like, I've heard that before. You got something else? Right? And then once they realize it doesn't work, like you're hyper emotional. And I'll tell them like, you're just mad because your sister and your mother and your cousins, they all listen to hip hop. They're all trying to get injections in their lips, get their skin darker, curl their hair, quit fucking around. We know what's going on. And it just drives them crazy.
Yeah.
So when they can't emotionally get to you and they can't talk down to you, then it becomes something different. Because I've had those experiences where people like, I had a guy tell me one day, one day you gotta get up to Alaska and go fishing. It's a it could be an expensive trip, but you gotta save it. It's gotta be a life goal. And I'm like, where? You mean like Kenai or Soldotna? And he's like, what? I'm like, my family has a cabin up there. Like I've been there. I've stood in the water. I've done that already. And I said, when did you go? Oh man, I finally got to get up there. How old were you when you went? I was like 45. Oh yeah, I was like 12. And my whole point is like, don't talk to me like you think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't like that. Like
limited.
Now if I come and I'm ignorant and I'm, the quintessential thug, right? By the way, American folks like to use thug as a substitute for nigger.
You think that's
100%.
Really? That's interesting. I haven't
look at it. Okay, so like soccer, football, the hooligans, soccer hooligans, like American. You see two white guys fighting at a sporting event. People are like, oh no, they're just drunk, overzealous fans. Two black dudes fighting. Look at those fucking thugs, ghetto bastards. Like it's a whole different connotation. Okay, right? Like and some people do it and they don't even realize that it is, but it is. There's a different connotation to it. Imagine this. I get pulled over by the police. All of a sudden, I'm wearing the crimes that every black dude ever committed in that moment. They don't see business owner. They don't see father. They don't see upstanding member of society. They don't see former soldier. They don't see any of those things. They see black male adult, and I have to wear everything that comes with that. Right? Now, that can make you bitter or make you angry, or it just makes me, I'm just like, that's their problem. But I'm fully empowered. And I tell people this all the time, like, what do you mean? I'm like, listen, I've lived a great life. I'm 47 years old, and I've lived a great life. I've got great kids and a whole bit. I also train, and I carry a gun every day. And I will not tolerate anyone, cop or thug, ever doing something to put me in danger. Ever. They will literally, I will fight to the death over it. I'm completely prepared to fucking die right there on the sidewalk, but you're not putting me in a chokehold. You're not putting your knee across my back. And if you get lucky and do so, you better fucking kill me, because after that's over, I will not rest until you find out what your fucking left nut tastes like. Like that's how bad it's gonna be. That's how, and that's the most American shit ever. I grew up, got exposed to Malcolm X early, and Malcolm said it. He said, be polite, be courteous, obey all laws. But if somebody tries to touch you, you put them in the fucking morgue. I like that. And it has to be that way.
Have you seen, there's a video, two black guys, one's a barber, and the other one's got his pants hanging under his butt. Yeah. And he's like, pull your pants up. Like, shit.
Oh, no, 100%.
What's your thoughts with that? Like,
so listen.
Like, you literally called him out on like, hey, you need to step up a bit. I don't really understand it, but I feel like you got a better.
So I'll give you the cliff notes. The cliff notes are when you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are, right? And so you never get that second chance on the first impression. Yeah. Okay. So in my culture, what a lot of black folks struggle with is the notion that there are certain things that general society are going to find off-putting. For instance, you go into an Asian household and you don't take your shoes off, they're going to think you're fucking rude. Yeah. Because that's what a lot of Americans, they don't care. They wear shoes in the house, track them all over, whatever. But when you're in Rome, you better know how it is. Now, how we present ourselves. When a young man is walking around with his pants hanging off his ass, which my son never does, he knows that I'll lose my shit on him. The connotation is that it's associated with the negative imagery of black people that racist white folks promulgate. Okay. Just because you see somebody with the pants hanging off there doesn't mean they're a thug.
No.
But the connotation
being the
right?
word.
The connotation is.
Okay.
So when I saw that video, when that brother was telling the young man, you need to pull your pants up and present yourself well, I think it's the best advice ever, because it's about how we present ourselves to others, right? Now, amongst ourselves, just like every culture, Chinese, Italian, Latino, if there's a group of them around each other, they speak in a different and conduct themselves in a different way.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But when black people do that, it's called, we're ignorant. Like in other words, Southern, you're talking about your girlfriend being from the South, right? All right. Southern white folks speak in a vernacular and a way with a drawl and slang and such that is specific to the region in which they grew up. Okay? But that's good down home country talking. Black folks use exactly the same lingo with exact Southern drawl, and they're ignorant niggers because of it.
Okay.
Do you see? The connotation? Who's telling the story? So what I try to impress upon black folks is let's be educated and understand what our real challenges are individually, but all collectively, right? And that's hard to do because we're spread out and we have different political views and different, within our culture, it's different.
Yeah.
Like black folks from Northern California are different from black people from Southern California. Different. Yeah. So it's, so it's different. So, but what we have to do is we have to take care of our families. We have to work harder. My grandfather climbed telephone poles. He was a lineman in Alaska for 30 years.
Oh, damn.
In the driving fucking cold, man.
Yeah.
So I think I can get up and go to a gym and go do my thing, right? Without excuses. And so what is modeled for us is important. So as a father, I'm very direct with my son. I tell my son this all the time. You have to make sure that you're conducting yourself in a way that is going to make you look good, but also our family.
Okay.
Right? Because it's bigger than you. This whole thing is bigger than you.
I get what you're saying.
And it's
because you shouldn't have to, but
should be and is are two different
things.
And here's the thing, that's not for white people's benefit, by the way. That's not we're not doing that because look at us, we want you to like us. We don't give a fuck about that. That's so that we can navigate and excel in life, so we can do what we want to do.
Okay.
And so that you see what I mean? So we're not
suppressed by something
100%.
The way you ate pants.
No, and I'm not,
or the way you would.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And so now here's the thing. Culturally, I'm not I get it. If you're going to wear your pants like that, and if you're going to conduct yourself a certain way, and you're going to wear, it's not even about wearing the pants. It's just your conduct and those kinds of things, the way you dress, the way you look, the way you present yourself. If you're one of these people who are like, I don't give a fuck, I'm going to do what I want to do, I love that. I commend that. Just don't bitch about what comes with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't be looking around like this is wrong. These people who think like that, they're not going to change. So I'm not in the business of trying to change racist people to being non-racist. I'm not in that business. In fact, I don't care. In fact, it sounds crazy, but I kind of I think that our very existence drives them crazy.
Yeah, I bet it.
Our very
it's probably a good.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Where white folks, I've been in places where white folks think I shouldn't be, and they're like, "What's he doing here?" I've had where you give them a credit card and they're like looking at the light saying the credit card's real, and I'm like, and they say some of the craziest shit to me. It's like I've had even non-whites. I was at a store one day and someone looked at my wife's ring and was like, "Oh, you must be a football player," and I'm normally they'll say that to me because of my size.
Yeah.
But I was like, "Why would you say that?" Why do you say that? She's like, "Well, your wife's ring is so nice," and I'm like, "I work in a fucking bank. I got a job in San Francisco. I was working in the financial district." You didn't, and it never occurred to them. It never occurs to them that we're just regular.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Regular.
So, but I don't let it. It doesn't make me bitter. My grandfather used to tell me, he's like, you have to be better than them. This is the craziest shit my grandfather ever told me. So my grandfather, they're in Alaska. They started, he started moving up in the company, and he wanted to buy a Cadillac. My grandfather loved Cadillacs. In fact, he drove them all the time, right? And he goes, "Do you remember the blue Cadillac I had when you were a kid?" I'm like, "Yeah, I remember that. The white top and real nice suede interior is nice." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "That was my first Cadillac that I bought." And I'm like, "Cool." He's like, he goes, "But when I wanted to buy it, I'd save the money. I wanted to buy it. The hardest part was being patient because I couldn't go buy it." I'm like, "What? They didn't have any in stock?" He's like, "No, I couldn't buy it." I'm like, why not?
Oh, he couldn't buy it.
He couldn't buy it. And I said, why not? Did they stop you
it.
from buying it? He's like, no. He goes, if I would have driven that Cadillac to work before the white boys that I worked with had their pickup trucks and all the other stuff that they wanted, they would have fired me because that nigger's living too well.
Damn. It's just so many.
These are the things they had to go. Do you know that my grandparents grew up, they had a book. There was a book, an atlas. They called it the Green Book, I think. And it was a place marked, like a book that marked all the safe places for black people to travel when you navigate and where can you go to get gas? Where can you go to eat? Where can you go to use the restroom?
That's insane, isn't it? Like every little thing.
But so it isn't like we do, just get on the phone, I get Southwest Airlines, I get on the plane, I go do what I want to do. I like this is like they didn't have that option. They're like we had to be careful where we pulled over to get gas. We traveled at nighttime because they didn't want people to see their black faces like these are the things that they had to. And that was, by the way, while it did happen in the South a lot, I think the South gets too much beef because that happened in California too. It happened like so this is what I'm saying. It's not that long ago, and my mother was in the car with them and doing living like that. Like so when I hear people say, haven't we made progress? My white friends always tell me this, but don't you think we make progress? I literally look at them, I'm like, you're just not acting as psychotic as your fucking grandfather was. And they're like, well, I'm like, that's all. It was like, you're just not as crazy as they were. If I stab you and I put the knife in you all the way and I pull it out 2 inches, have you made progress? No, you're still fucking stabbed. It's just not as deep, but that's not progress. Yeah. And I'm not less of an animal. I stabbed you. So this is the thing. It's like this perception that people have of what blackness is and what Asian is and what Latino is, and all, like, because for ignorant people, it helps them to try to put everyone in a category.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Blacks do this, whites do this, like, and it's racism is like this mystery. It's like Celine Dion, right? Celine Dion sold like, I don't know, 80 million records, but I don't know anybody that fucking admits to buying one. They all like it didn't happen. I'm like, who are these people that bought Celine? I don't know anybody that will admit to buying a Celine Dion record. So therefore, like, but she sold them. It's there. Like in the 60s, you saw these angry white people and like they would wear KKK like robes and stuff. Yeah. What happened to their robes? What became of those people? What jobs did they have?
Around,
yeah, I'm like, did they?
Just like the Nazis.
Like, right? You don't see them at the Goodwill. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see them at the thrift store. Yeah. What happened? They hid. You know what they did was like they took the robes off and they put their suits on, and Americans act like, well, that's illegal now. I'm like, yeah, right. So the law passed and everyone woke up the next morning and was like, you know what? All that lynching and burning and all the nigger stuff that we've been doing, let's stop that because it's illegal. Stop. Bro, stop. It's deeply embedded in the country. It's like the foundation. If we build this building here that we're sitting in on a shit foundation, no matter how nice that building is, one day it's gonna crumble. Yeah. Why? Because the foundation is bad. Yeah. So I find it, it's frustrating to me sometimes because you can't, when you express that you disagree, they go like, you just hate America. No. Oh, if you're critical of police, you hate America. I don't hate the country. What are you talking about? I'm demanding that the country live up to the values that it professes to have. That's the most American thing ever. I don't want equal results. You can't guarantee equal results because not everybody hustles the same. Yeah. But opportunities are important. Like this idiot Whitlock, I saw him he's like, well, people are claiming that the NFL is racist. The NFL is not racist, and it's not been that way for around 50 years. And I'm like, really? Because he was using that black coaches are being hired now, so therefore the NFL is not racist. But it hadn't been racist since the 70s. I'm like, really? In 1970,
like, I'll get a black friend that's not racist.
1972, how many black coaches were in the NFL? Fucking zero. They hadn't even hired one yet. That didn't happen until Art Shell, like in the 80s, late 80s. And then he was one of one for a long time. So then you say, relative to the amount of black athletes that are there, why aren't the coaches, like they had to make a Rooney rule so that black coaches could even get an interview. They weren't even getting interviews. Really? But it's not racist. It's just, it drives me crazy, especially when I hear somebody black say something like that. I'm like, that's because you sold out, homie. That's because you've been making money banging white chicks and you think you made it.
Gotcha.
You think you made it, and you're a bum. Like, and that's what I would say to his face. Like, one thing about being in my position now as like, I'm free. When I tell people free, I don't have that slave mentality. I'm not afraid that people are going to hate me and my business is going to get ruined and yada, yada, yada. Because I have skills. I have more skills than just martial arts skills. But so true freedom is when you don't give a fuck about what people think. But here's the thing. If you're going to get on television or get on the internet and say shit that's just patently untrue, then the rest of us need to G-check you for it. The rest of us need to be like that. And you can say whatever you want. Like, I don't care about what comes from it. I can fight. I'm not worried. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like, you're not going to hurt me. This isn't the 60s. We're not going to hold hands and sing "We Shall Overcome." It's not going to happen. Like, you don't have the right to harass and abuse people. And I think what's happening in society is wrong when they say defund the police because of these things. Yeah. Don't defund the police. Hold them accountable. Fund the police to the point where, hey, you can do your job properly.
Yeah.
Teach the police that the police, as a police department, you don't get to police the way you want to police, by the way. You police to the will of the people. And you need to understand that, right? So if you can't do your job without beating people up, violating people's rights, and doing if you feel so like, oh my God, I don't want to be a cop anymore, it's just too much, because why? Because you want to do what the fuck you want to do? Well, it's just too much scrutiny. You're gutless. To me, that's good. You know how we would address things in the military? If you're in my unit and you do something to someone, say we're in other country, and you do something that's inappropriate to a civilian or someone else over there, do you know what my job is? To snatch you up immediately and be like, don't you fucking embarrass us like that. Like, when George Floyd is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. They could have easily picked him up, put him in a car, and got him the fuck out of there within seconds.
Easily.
But they chose not to. And you know why? The arrogant prick of a cop puts his hands in his pocket, puts his knee on his neck, and stares out the crowd like, fuck you. Now, by the way, all my friends that are police officers, not one of them supported that bullshit. That technique is not taught in any academy anywhere. It's been gone for a long time. He fucking knows better, but he did it because he thought he could. And when you don't value, by the way, George Floyd was not a good person. He's not Saint George. Like, this guy. But that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's the
and that's the part that people don't get.
It doesn't matter if he shot someone.
He was awful. He had a rap sheet a mile long.
It's got nothing to do with it.
But that's irrelevant. Yeah. He's still entitled to due process. He's still entitled to have his day in court. And if we don't fight to hold on to those principles, we'll lose our country. We'll lose everything back. Because this is what's happening right now. Look at the shit that's going on right now. You're banning books because you don't like what's in it. I saw a story today. A teacher in Texas told the students to refer to a pedophile as what was the term? The pronoun. A child attracted or something of this nature. And I'm like, so now we're giving pedophiles pronouns? Hey, listen, I'm gonna be the first one to tell you, and I wholeheartedly support this. If you're a pedophile and you're within the sound of my voice, I swear to God, if you touch a child and I find out about it, and it's a child that's close to me or anyway, and I find out about it, fuck a pronoun. There's fathers like me, we're gonna beat the shit out of you. Like, we're literally, we will kill you. We will take, I'm not playing this game with you. That's not a pronoun thing. I was born this way. Okay, well listen, I'll tell you what, you better get your shit together, because if you think that because you were born this way and you think that you're attracted to kids, child attracted, that's what they call it. You're attracted to kids, Jesus. And you think that gives you a license to do whatever you want with a child. Let me explain something to you. It doesn't. It fucking doesn't, and we will hurt you. We will do awful things to you to protect our children. Enough of the bullshit. I'm totally okay with people wanting to be addressed by the way that they want to be addressed. If you're part of the community and you want to identify as a woman and you want to identify as a man, I don't care how you identify.
Yeah, what's it matter?
I don't give a shit. It's not my business.
Yeah.
But what you're not going to do, what you will never do, you're not going to use that as a reasoning to touch and violate children.
Yeah.
That you will not do. Fathers like me will be like, no, we're going to do something about it. We're going to do something. And if these politicians and all these people, they have collectively given up their morals and spread their ass cheeks for votes. They literally bent over because they don't want to say, hey, yeah, you know what? pedophilia is pedophilia. A child can't make a decision to have a sexual relationship, and you're attracted to them. Okay, good. So we're going to try and either A, help you, or B, isolate you. But you're not going to touch kids. It's not going to happen. Like, and that has nothing to do. And if you say that, like, people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid of being called phobic. Like, oh, he's a pedophile phobe. No, I just think that's immoral.
Just messed up.
It's messed up. If you're a consenting adult and you want to put on a dress and skip down the street hand in hand with a dude dressed like a clown who's actually a woman, I'm gonna applaud you.
Go nuts.
Knock yourself out.
Make yourself happy.
Just don't hand me the fucking bill for it whenever you're doing what you're done. I have no problem with people loving each other and doing what they want. Gay people have every right to be as miserable in their relationships as everybody else, or as happy. I have no issue with that at all. None. In fact, my schools, I have tons of people from the community in my school, and they know that's a safe place for them. But my school's not a place for pedophilia. No way.
One more question for you. What do you think we're doing today that we're going to look back on in 50 years and be like, oh my God, I can't believe
we're fucking the house of Brewer.
Like we did with slavery, like we did with so many segregation, like we did with the war. What are we doing today?
Well, I think that the economics of it. And what I mean by that is that the deck is stacked against the people. It's for the elite.
Okay.
And that the people have tolerated it this long.
You think someone's going to wake up eventually?
Yes, but the problem is the elite have done a really good job for controlling the media and the narrative to make the people fight against each other. Right? So if there's a group of people who think that a minority group, I always laugh at people that like, see, they're letting all these minorities in and they're taking our jobs. I'm like, you mean that you're such a fucking bum that somebody who came here who doesn't speak the language took your job?
Yeah.
Like,
you mustn't want that job.
You're a fucking scrub.
Yeah.
Right. And think about the jobs that they get. Right? Think about the jobs that the immigrants will come. They're not taking jobs. They're doing jobs that you don't want to do.
Exactly.
What, you want to sell fruit on the side of the freeway? You wanted to be a landscaper?
Yeah.
You wanted to do these tougher jobs. And God bless them, by the way. They're essential to our economy. Without them, I'm going to tell you right now, I keep telling people like, oh, we should just round them all up and kick them out. I'm like, oh, really? You know what that would do to our economy? Who's going to work? Who's going to do those jobs? By the way, these people are coming here working hard. If I lived in Mexico and I knew I could go feed my family and go north too, fuck you, I'd do it too.
It's funny in Australia, like my dad washed windows, my dad mowed lawns, my dad did those jobs as well as work a full-time job.
Right.
And it's respectable.
There's
but
nothing
over
wrong
here,
with it.
nobody wants to touch that stuff.
Well, because
that's beneath me. That's below me. I don't get that.
It is, I call it the Kardashian effect. Social media has made the extraordinary look ordinary, look like it's within people's reach. In other words, I don't need to be that talented. All I got to do is get fucked on camera and I'm going to be famous or say stupid shit. Like they don't, what we've forgotten is the grind, brother. Like this shit isn't easy. It's not easy. This shit that we do every day. Like, I have my kid, my daughter's going to private school. My son, he's privately trained. Like the work that I have to do to provide that for them is enormous. They'll never know. By the way, they never need I don't need anything for it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a father. But what I'm saying is that if you want to be extraordinary, you want to be great, it takes great effort and consistent and failure and getting up and being knocked down. Like, people don't understand that because everybody on TikTok and everybody on social media is living their best life and I'm popping champagne and I'm da-da-da-da-da and I'm doing all this stuff. And they don't have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. The truth of the matter is, life is relatively mundane.
There's a new app. It's called Be Real. It'll literally like ping you at random time during the day, and the goal of it is just to take a picture of what you're doing. So right now, if I don't know, you're doing your hair, and that's what you take a picture of.
It's mundane.
It's not like, oh my God, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, right.
It's like just the normal day, and what it's trying to do is get across that most life is just mundane.
Yes.
It's just normal.
And to listen, man. Look, when I grew up, there were times I opened a refrigerator and the back of the refrigerator was looking at me. We didn't have the lights on. Fuck, we didn't have a phone for 2 years. I didn't have cable. I didn't I couldn't go do some of the things that my friends could do. They never knew because we didn't. Yeah. But that was our reality. My kids have never known that. They never would. Like, they've never known that. Like, I would like, hey, that's not going to happen. And I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure that that's the case. But what I'm saying is, when people take for granted how difficult being extraordinary is and being exceptional is, it skews their reality. They, instead of having substance, they show things. Oh, look at this watch this week. Like there's a whole industry built on. I told my wife, years ago, I banned her from, don't bring those fucking magazines in my house. It's okay, Us Weekly, all this bullshit. You know why? Because it's telling you you're not pretty enough. You're not cute enough. You don't have this get that shit out of here.
Yeah.
I don't, like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not real. Those,
yeah.
And then I experienced something. We when I came here, you know, we were doing really well in real estate before everything crashed and everything. And it was amazing to me. When I was broke, I couldn't get a discount if I saved my life. One day I walked into a retail store where we bought a lot of stuff from. And they had a leather jacket that was out. And I was like, hey, is that thing on sale? Because there was no price on it. And the lady looks at me and she goes, for you, it is. And I'm like, what? She's like, no. And she told me the price of the jacket, and it was very expensive, but they gave it to me for really cheap. And so I got the jacket, I walked out, and I said to my wife, I said, do you see what just happened there? Because we have means now we're getting the discount. But when we didn't have means and we fucking needed it, they were like, get out of here.
It's the opposite, right? Yeah, I've been there.
It's crazy, right? It's insane.
When I need it, you can't get it.
I don't need it. They're trying to give me stuff. I'm like, I don't need it. I can pay full price.
Yeah.
They're like, no, don't do that. They're like, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?